Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast. We cover everything Major League from spring training to the World Series. We've got your favorite club covered from New York to Boston to LA. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to the GSMC Baseball Podcast. I am your host, Jeff Malinoff, and with me once again is Mark Souza. We've been a little gone from the GSMC Baseball Podcast just due to our moving on locations and such, but we have some off-season things to discuss. Goldschmidt being traded from the Diamondbacks to the Cardinals, McCutchen signing a 3-year deal with the Phillies. Is Harper going anywhere? Where is he going? Machado as well. And the winter meetings in the Major League Baseball is coming to a close. So we got all that to talk about. Let's first start with the Goldschmidt trade, though, as he's been traded to from the Arizona Diamondbacks, to the St. Louis Cardinals. I almost said Arizona Cardinals because that's a team as well. That's also kind of confusing. But he goes from the Diamondbacks to the Cardinals, and does this turn the Cardinals into another World Series contender yet again, or is this like one of those things where you sign someone that's a veteran hoping to gain momentum, but it won't work out?
I think this is a great move for the Cardinals. I don't know if this pushes them into a contender status, but it definitely elevates where they were. They could definitely still make some moves, too. They're in on Harper. They're one of the teams that is expected to be on the short list for Bryce Harper. They've mentioned that they're going after him, so imagine if they were able to get Goldschmidt and Harper in one offseason. If they did, I mean, that could be an incredible start to their offseason as they approach 2019. And this franchise tries to get back into that mix of, winning championships.
Yeah. And the Cardinals are no stranger to championships over the last 20 years. They've won one in 2006 and won one in 2011. They were in the World Series in 2013, losing to the Red Sox. So this team is no stranger to title contending moves in the last few years. But again, they're in a National League that has been getting stacked and is continuing to be stacked over the recent years. So it's not going to be easy for them. Even though the Dodgers lost Machado, they're still a title contender yet again. And they're still, like, the Milwaukee Brewers are making a rise, as well as some other teams. But I don't know. Goldschmidt is at the end of his career, I feel like. And it feels like a latch-ditch effort to win now type feelings.
I mean, he's a perennial, MVP candidate, though, so I wouldn't say he's at the end of his career. I mean,
he's still getting up there in age, though. We can't deny that.
Yeah. True. I'm
just saying it's like one of these. It's kind of one of these movers. Instead of thinking about rebuilding, they're still thinking about winning now.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they traded some prospects to win now, and a lot of pundits have had their opinions on the trade, and most people say that the Cardinals didn't give up a whole lot for somebody who could win an MVP award.
But
I tend to agree with that.
Yeah, and it's also important to think about how sometimes some teams are too stubborn to know when it's time to rebuild. And, I think the San Francisco Giants are one of those teams also in being kind of stubborn to rebuild because of what they did last year with McCutchen and Longoria. But I hope this doesn't become a trend for the Cardinals. They keep trying to get good players that are up there in age or past their prime or anything like that to try to win now. But sometimes you got to admit when it's time to rebuild. Maybe the Cardinals in a few years have to admit that.
Sure.
Yeah.
But they have a chance to win the World Series this year, so.
Yeah. Do you have any teams that should admit to rebuilding in your mind, just out of curiosity?
Not off the top of my head.
I don't know. There's always that trend of where a team can admit to know it's past its prime, past its contending stages. So hopefully this isn't what the Cardinals are.
I mean, it looks admitting. Like the Cardinals are, or the Diamondbacks, the other team in the trade. It looks like the Diamondbacks are committing to a rebuild. I mean, Corbin just left. Goldschmidt just left. That's two of their key cogs in how well they've been, how good they've been the last 2 years.
And, of course, how expensive both those guys are is something to consider.
So they've gotten prospects back, and it looks like they're in a rebuilding phase, which is a little disappointing because, they just went 82-80. They're a team that's definitely one of the better teams in baseball over the last couple of years, so it looks like they'll be taking a step back.
Yeah. And it's also very common in these situations in where you trade like a key veteran on your team that's been there for a long time and basically telling their fan base that we're looking at the future and not now.
The Cardinals were 88-74 last year, just narrowly missing the postseason, and they could absolutely be in the mix next year. I don't see any reason why they can't contend at this moment in time with the Cubs and the Brewers for the division. They finished 7 and 8 games behind both those teams respectively. And adding a guy like Goldschmidt should add a few more wins. Obviously, a lot of factors go into this, health and things like that. But yeah, it's a big get for the Cardinals. I think so far you have to like what they've done, and maybe they've been winning the offseason so far until we see those other bigger chips fall.
Yeah, definitely. And it's also a very crucial thing to look at is, this offseason there's a lot of available players right now. Anything is possible, especially in the Major League Baseball where trades can happen at any time. Everyone's available. Like, there's no one that's, like, off the grid. You know what I mean? And, like, what the Yankees have said, like, Harper's off the table for them. Harper can honestly go anywhere. Harper is still like that. And Machado, of course. But we honestly don't know where they're going to go, and that's honestly kind of exciting to me. Because wherever
we really don't know.
Yeah, wherever they go, title contending is intact with that team.
That is something that I have found interesting, is that in baseball, you really don't know. Like, I feel like in other sports, it's more obvious where players are going to land, especially basketball, NBA. But Major League Baseball, I mean, especially right now, we've heard that a lot of teams have met with these bigger named free agents, and we don't really know. We didn't know that Goldschmidt was being moved. We knew that Goldschmidt was in the last year of his contract, which is an interesting thing for the Cardinals.
Well, obviously. I think they saved money on the deal, though, giving him up. So the Cardinals are taking up his contract at the end of it.
Well, what I'm saying is he only has 1 year left on his deal, so the Cardinals are obviously looking to win this year. They traded prospects.
It's kind of like Jimmy Butler in the NBA. He only has 1 year, but teams are looking to win now type feel. But definitely, I think Goldschmidt is going to be definitely a boost to the Cardinals. They could definitely use some power in that lineup. And that's what Goldschmidt is, a power hitter. He will always be known as the power hitter of a team. So,
yeah, I mean, you add him to the middle of the lineup, and all of a sudden it's like wow, you have a guy that you can just plug in in the 3 spot and the 4 spot, and he's going to give you a 290 average. I mean, he's going to hit for power. He's got a lot of good things going for him, and what I like about Goldschmidt is he's a hitter that makes a lot of contact. Sometimes you get these power hitters that strike out a lot, that don't really put the ball in play. And he does strike out a lot. He is a guy that strikes out a lot, but he has a good average. For a guy who strikes out over 150 times, he does get on base quite a bit. So it could be nice. He's always one of the better sluggers in Major League Baseball. I mean, 33 homers last year, 83 RBIs. I could see both those numbers going up.
Definitely.
Although he did play in a really hitters-friendly park, so who knows?
Oh, Arizona?
Yeah.
Both right and left field are pretty easy to get over that fence, isn't it? I would say center field's not the easiest because they have that weird, like, the yellow line goes upwards and then across, which is kind of weird to me. But other than center field, it's pretty easy to hit a home run in that park. It's kind of like what's it called? It's kind of like Yankee Stadium. Like on the right and left are pretty easy, but center field's pretty deep. As well as like in Boston on right field is extremely easy to get over that small fence, and then the others they have the Green Monster on the left. So it's great for lefties, and for that park, it's great for those pull hitters.
So Goldschmidt has finished second in MVP voting twice.
So close yet so far away.
He's been an all-star every year for the last 6 years. I did see that the general manager for the Arizona Diamondbacks met with him, and he was pretty upset when they decided to trade him. He felt like he had some unfinished business as a Diamondback, for this ball club, which I thought was pretty cool. I mean, it really says something about the player. Maybe have that bittersweet, like, yes, a team went and got you, but, man, it's also like, I really wanted to win here. I wanted to do something for this club, for this city. But, yeah, so Tori Lavolu, the general manager for the Diamondbacks, he's been getting some heat for this trade, not just because they traded a fan favorite in Paul Goldschmidt, but a lot of people are saying they didn't get enough in return. What do you think about that?
I kind of agree with that, but honestly, St. Louis is known to have a pretty good farm system, and I think they were just trying to tap into that as best they could. I think that was what their game plan was.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where we won't know, right? Like, when you make these trades, we're not going to know until 3-4 years down the road what the outcome actually is. I mean, even if Goldschmidt helps the Cardinals win tomorrow, I mean, that still, we still won't know the full effect of that trade until some of these young players get to the majors and produce there. I mean, they got catcher Carson Kelly, right-handed pitcher Luke Weaver, and infielder Andy Young. All three players seem to be decent prospects. Luke Weaver is the pitcher here that some people say has our all-star potential, that he could be the guy that, I don't know, maybe a number 1 or number 2 in a rotation. But again, with prospects, it's always hard to tell. It's always hard to figure out where they will actually be in their careers. I mean, it's so easy to say, oh, this guy's a future all-star, this guy's a future number 2 in the rotation, but we have no idea. And we see a guy like Andy Young. Supposedly, Andy Young is a very Cardinals-like prospect, right? Like, he's a tough player, a utility-type player, can do everything. But they were comfortable moving him to get a guy like Goldschmidt. So we will see. We will absolutely see where this goes. But I have to say that the Cardinals made a A-plus trade on this, to be honest.
Yeah, it was as soon as the trade happened, it was actually surprising to a lot of people, especially me. And how they gave him up, it seemed like a little, but maybe in the long run, with if these prospects really show what they're made of, maybe this will benefit the Diamondbacks. Who knows? But as of right now, it looks like the Cardinals won this trade.
And then also this trade too, Goldschmidt will play first, and that should move Matt Carpenter to third instead of Matt Carpenter playing first.
Okay.
So, only 1 year remaining on that contract, though. We'll see if Goldschmidt stays or if this is a true rental type situation. I really don't know. He'll be 32 next year, or 32 right before he hits free agency. So we'll see.
Yeah, and there's always a possibility of, and Goldschmidt can always return to the Diamondbacks to finish off his career. Who knows what's going to happen if he doesn't feel, because sometimes it doesn't sound like he left on bad terms. So whatever happens. But right now the Cardinals got a good deal for Goldschmidt, a very positive power hitter. So good for the Cardinals.
So one thing that's been talked about over the last few days is the use of the opener, quote unquote, in baseball. We saw it popularized last year. The Brewers, the Devil Rays, and the Oakland A's, they all used their version of an opener, quote unquote, where a relief pitcher starts the game and then makes way for either a more traditional starter or another bullpen arm. The first pitcher will pitch 2 or 3 innings, and it's planned this way, not because, the pitcher is getting roughed up like some rotate or some pitching changes are early in games. What do you think about this? We saw, fellow or former Giants pitcher Sergio Romo be used in this capacity with the Rays last year. What do you think about this strategy in baseball?
Interesting to say the least. I don't know how this fad is going to actually work out in the long run, but it could be a factor. But I think at one point, if everyone keeps doing it, it's just going to grow into like, okay, we know what's going to happen, so it's not going to affect the lineup, the hitting lineup at all.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, too, because you can have the same starting pitcher for multiple days in a row. Like, you can use an opener on a Saturday, a Sunday, and a Monday. I mean, if you have a bullpen arm who can throw 30 pitches 3 days in a row or something like that, you could use it like that, which makes it interesting. It'll make it interesting to see the probables when you look at the baseball matchups. It'll be like, wait, this guy pitched yesterday. Wait, this guy pitched yesterday too, or the day before that, and then this guy's pitching tomorrow. What's going on here?
Yeah, but I think after if that happens with all teams, then like next season it's gonna this season afterwards is gonna be done. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. But yeah, we're hearing that this is going to be a trend. We've noticed a lot of MLB teams that will be employing this strategy to see if it works for them. It's funny, too, because the ringer.com, they posted an article on May 22nd of this year, and it was by Zach Cram, and he said that Tampa Bay's opener experiment could spark a baseball revolution. And it looks like it is, because the paradigm might be shifting in terms of how we view starting pitchers, how baseball managers view managing games in terms of from the pitching side of it. So it'll be interesting. I'm actually excited about this. I like when teams experiment with stuff like this, but it seems to be in the right logic. Like that, it makes sense. You limit your starters. You don't have them, get too tired too often. It breaks up the rotation. Them. Yeah, it breaks up the rotation a little bit. I mean, I don't think this is going to be an everyday thing, but I could see like 1 or 2 games a week where a team uses a quote-unquote opener, right? So maybe your starting pitcher pitched 8 innings on a Sunday, and then on the following Saturday you use an opener, and then that starting pitcher goes back and pitches 4 or 5 innings instead of, you're hoping that he pitches another 6 or 7, right? So
yeah, true.
And there is something to be said, too, about in baseball how there's something to be said in baseball about, when batters see the same pitcher for 3 at-bats. A lot of managers take out a pitcher after 2 times through the rotation or through the lineup because the third time at bat, the hitters have a distinct advantage against the pitcher because they've already seen him twice. Also, the pitcher could be tiring a little bit. So it does change that dynamic. So
right.
Anyway, so it looks like a lot of teams have been doing some reading, right? So we're looking at other options, other ways to, strategize and things like that. And a lot of times you don't have the time to sit down and open a book. However, when we're doing other things like working out, we can always listen to audiobooks. And right now, there's a great option for that. You can do that with Audible. Listening to audiobooks inspires people. It obviously gets them more informed on topics while they're doing other things like the aforementioned working out. And there's no better place to listen than Audible. Get your first audiobook free along with 2 selected Audible original titles and exclusive fitness programs when you start a 30-day trial. So take the time to listen on Audible. Just visit audible.com/GSMC book or text GSMC book to 500-500 to get started. Right now, for a limited time, you can get 3 months of Audible for just $6.95 a month. That's more than half off the regular price. Again, you have to go to audible.com/GSMC book or text GSMC book to 500-500.
What happens to your decision-making when you drink? Well, after one drink, you feel confident. A few more, and calling your ex at 1 a.m. seems like a great idea. And you're pretty sure the secret to a great taco is 4-day-old macaroni. The bottom line, drunk you doesn't make great decisions. So you're risking a DUI or worse if you count on him to get you home. Plan before you party. Get home safe. Brought to you by Washington Tire.
Welcome back to the GSMC Baseball Podcast. We just finished talking about the Goldschmidt trade and other some of the new pitching ideas for the major leaguers. Now we're going to move on to other maneuvers that have happened in the offseason as Andrew McCutchen goes from the Giants to the Yankees, and now he's on the Philadelphia Phillies as the Phillies signed into a 3-year, $50 million contract. What do you think of this trade? Do you think it's a benefactor trade?
Signing?
Signing, yeah. Well, yeah, signing. Do you think it's more benefactor to McCutchen or benefactor to the team itself, or why do you think they made this trade?
Well, the Phillies definitely need some veteran players. They've been going through this rebuild, and we know that they're still in on Machado. They're still in on Harper. They're looking to land both those guys. Adding McCutchen, although I think it was a little pricey, it gives them a veteran presence and obviously a guy who you can move around in that order. If you can bat him leadoff, you can bat him 2 in the middle. I just think he's a nice piece, but I do think that it doesn't really mean much unless they add one of those other guys.
Yeah, I think that's what this was for. Is just like, all right, so we got this veteran player, we're going to add this young star. It can only mean good things. It's like a 1-2 combination type thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's not, the same player. I mean, he's definitely over the hill, I would say. He used to be a faster player. He's definitely not that as much anymore. I don't think he's the greatest defensive player anymore, but, man, he was so good so young, which was pretty incredible. He's definitely declining a little bit, but in the last 2 seasons, he's hit .267. He's averaged 30 doubles and 24 home runs. 820 OPS over that span. So it's above the league average. So it's certainly a nice guy. And you gotta talk about what he brings to a clubhouse. There are not too many players in Major League Baseball who are more professional than Andrew McCutchen. He's a guy who helps younger players. He's a guy that brings a positive attitude to a team, to a lineup, to a clubhouse. And I think that means
he's the definition of a team player.
Mm-hmm. And I think that means something. I mean, we're talking about a team, the Phillies, that are trying to change the narrative. They're trying to go from laughingstock of baseball, the basement of baseball, to a contending team. They're trying to get to that level. And getting a guy like McCutchen, and if they're able to land one or both of those stars in Machado or Harper, that can change how people view the Phillies big time overnight. So
yeah, and it's hard to believe that only 10 years ago they won the World Series.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems a long
you know who they played in the World Series that year?
What year was that?
That was 2008.
They played not the White Sox.
They played the Tampa Bay Rays.
That's right. They
probably
did
the most
Rays.
one of the most least likely matchups in World Series history is those two teams for sure.
I don't even remember other than Longoria. Who was on that team?
I couldn't tell you on the top of my head. But
I know Halladay was on the Phillies.
The next year, the Phillies actually went back to the World Series, but lost to the eventual world champion Yankees, which was the last time the Yankees won a World Series. So, Just fun facts you want to talk about. Just not like everyone's like, oh, the Eagles are there's their first world championship in how many years? But in reality, no, the Phillies have been more champs.
Yeah. So McCutchen, I mean, what can you say about this guy? He's a fan favorite. He's a great player. So I think the fans of Phillies really won in this deal because, I mean, he's a guy we've seen.
His jerseys are going to sell.
Yeah, we've seen him. He's so good with the fans, with the kids. We talked about that positive energy, that positive outlook. I mean, he exudes that in every facet, not just on the field, but with the media, with the fans and things like that. So I think it's a great trade signing for the fans of the Philadelphia Phillies more than anything. Yeah,
I think that was more of a publicity signing more than a talent signing.
I mean, he still has some.
I don't know. I agree with you. I'm just saying this is more for the fans than the team itself. Mm-hmm. That's how I see it personally. And of course, he's always been known as he's one of the many known faces of the league. So it was a good signing. So hopefully they get Machado or Harper and really boost that team into an actual title contention. Because I don't think, honestly, I hate to say it, but I don't think McCutchen's just going to turn that team around by himself.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. All due respect to him, I just think he's not at that level anymore.
Yeah. So what did you think about Lee Smith and Harold Baines getting elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame? They were put into the Hall of Fame, and there's a lot of controversy surrounding it.
Well, the thing is, they weren't voted in. That was kind of my issue with it, is that they kind of overruled their voters into saying, hey, we're going to just put these guys in.
Yeah, the Today's Game Era Committee. Today's Game Era Committee.
It's an odd name.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't really know.
And I didn't even know this was a real committee.
Yeah, there's 16 voters. I really don't know what to say about them, but they voted in Baines and Lee Smith, and it's getting a lot of, I guess, outcry in terms of fans, in terms of baseball pundits. But Lee Smith was unanimous approval. All 16 voters put him in, and then Harold Baines hit the 75% with 12 out of 16, despite never clearing better than 50.6% on the actual Hall of Fame ballot. So I find that to be very interesting.
Seems suspicious.
Do you think both these players are Hall of Famers?
Not really. To me, no. Were they great players in their day? Yes, but were they Hall of Famer levels? I guess that's why there's a committee, right? But I personally wouldn't have voted them in.
Mm-hmm. Harold Baines, I think, got put in because of his longevity. I mean, he played 22 seasons.
Well, you can play 22 seasons. I mean, you're going to be great for those 22 seasons, you know?
I think he was very good for those 22. I think he was an above-average player to good player for 22, but he was never a great player, so that one is a little bit weird to me. I don't know, man. I'm not somebody who's like, oh, this guy this guy shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. Like, I think it's cool to celebrate when people achieve something like that, and if their peers think that they're Hall of Famers, then who am I to say that they're not? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So if their peers say, yeah, that guy's a Hall of Famer, maybe their vote counts a little bit, or their opinion counts a little bit more than mine, and I'm totally fine with that. So who knows? Yeah, I was a little surprised though when I heard the announcement. I was like, really? Okay, interesting.
Other people took it more offensive than that, but yeah.
When you dive into the stats, I mean, it's not the greatest. Again, Baines' numbers are more of a collection of playing for 22 seasons. I mean, he had 2,866 hits.
But that was in 22. Like, you know how many other guys have beaten that win
384
half that
homers.
time? Yeah. There's been so many other...
and he was a DH for most of his career, which is... I don't know about that.
Well, the thing is with these 22 years, is like he's had these stats, but there's been guys with like only 9, 11 years in the league, 9 to 12 or something like that, and they have double what he has.
Mm-hmm.
If he had the same, like if he had 22 seasons, if Pete Rose, for example, had 22 seasons, which I'm sure he didn't, he would have like 5,000 hits, in theory.
And there is an argument to be made that it's not just about the stats. Like I've seen people say stuff like,
well, Barry Bonds is a perfect example of that.
Well, I've seen people say stuff like, stats don't actually measure this player. Like if you watch him play, you could tell that he was a great player, that he was Hall of Fame caliber for his era. Also sometimes like perception plays a big key, right? Like sometimes players have this aura about them because they're like a superstar. They're like a Ken Griffey Jr., right? Like everybody wants to be like them. Everybody wants to swing like them. And then you have a guy like Harold Baines who has had a great career but doesn't carry the star power as someone else like that. So maybe there's something to be said about how good he was, but he kind of did it in his own quiet way, you know?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't really have a problem with this. I really don't. I know that some people definitely do. And you know how baseball is. Like, baseball's so old school that people have really strong opinions about these things, like Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if this Hall of Fame conversation, if it would be so, I guess, fiery if it was for a different sport or for a different league, you know?
Like, let's say...
Like NFL, for example, or even NBA. Like, I don't think it would be that big of a deal, but some people are just very upset.
Yeah. Well, some people just... It's the oldest... It's America's pastime, you know? Mm-hmm. In America's pastime, there's also, like, books on this kind of stuff, you know?
Oh, there's probably a ton of books on the history of baseball.
And you can hear the old guys just reading those books to you and being very fascinated by the history of baseball. And you know what? I think I know someone that can read a book to you, and that is Audible. Right now, for a limited time, you can get 3 months of Audible for just $6.95 a month. That's more than half off the regular price. Give yourself the gift of listening. While you're at it, think about giving the gift of Audible to someone on your list. For more, go to audible.com/GSMC book or text the code GSMC book to 500-500. That's 500-500. And what you get with this code is you get your first audiobook for free, along with 2 selected Audible original titles and an exclusive fitness programs when you start your 30-day trial. So take the time to listen on Audible. Just visit, once again, audible.com/GSMC book or text the code GSMC book to 500-500. Once again, everyone, that's GSMC book to 500-500.
What happens to your decision-making when you drink? Well, after one drink, you feel confident. A few more, and calling your ex at 1 a.m. seems like a great idea. And you're pretty sure the secret to a great taco is 4-day-old macaroni. The bottom line, drunk you doesn't make great decisions. So you're risking a DUI or worse if you count on him to get you home. Plan before you party. Get home safe. Brought to you by Washington.
Welcome back, everyone, to the GSMC Baseball Podcast. We just talked about McCutcheon's 3-year deal with the Phillies, as well as some other news and quirks about baseball. Now we're moving on to more news and quirks about baseball. And going into this, we're at the end of our winter meetings, and there's been a couple of moves, but do you think there should be a lot more moves that have happened that didn't? Did you expect, let me ask you this instead. Do you think Harper or Machado should have gotten or would have been signed by this point?
No. I don't think either will sign for a while, to be honest with you.
Do you think they're just going to hold out until they get a lot of more money?
I mean, look, Harper has met with 12 teams in the last 2 weeks in Vegas. There are at least 12 teams who are interested in meeting with him. It would make no sense for him to sign a contract until after a few weeks, after a few months. You want to see teams get desperate. I mean, his agent is Scott Boras. Let's be real. Like, they're looking for the most.
It just sounds like a villain in a Bond movie, doesn't it? Well, Boras was a villain in a Bond movie.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. GoldenEye, the first.
When you're in demand like that, you don't sign early, right? Mm-hmm. You wait. You wait and you drive up the cost. The value of Harper can't be less tomorrow than it is today. So.
Oh, it might improve more if he's still holding off, yeah.
As long as he doesn't get in a ATV accident or anything stupid.
Why would you say that?
Isn't that what happened to Madison Bumgarner?
Yeah, but that was like during the middle of the season.
Well, the point was you gotta get the point here. The point is if he doesn't get injured or do anything that affects his future, he's gonna get paid.
Just don't jinx the guy. Is all I'm saying. That's just.
I'm not jinxing him. I'm stating a fact. If he doesn't anything that causes bodily harm to himself or puts him in a, I don't know, legal situation, then he's going to get paid more money tomorrow than he will today.
Okay, granted. I just odd how you pointed it out like that is all.
So supposedly 12 teams are in on him. They've been whining and dining Harper in Las Vegas. Of course, Las Vegas is his hometown, so it's nice to people just, I don't know, swinging on by just to be like, hey, Bryce, how's it going, man?
So is he going to be just a huge Las Vegas Raiders fan when they come here?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I would assume.
Yeah.
But still sounds like the Phillies are the front runner. The Cardinals are still at the top of that list. The Chicago White Sox have also been a team that is considered to be one of the favorites for Bryce Harper. And the Yankees are in the mix. Can't ever rule them out because they are the Yankees.
They did say things about, like, they're not likely going to sign him, but who knows?
Yes, they did. But
the
Yankees.
Yankees, yeah, they could come out of nowhere and say, hey, we're going to sign you anyways, and sign you to a $3 billion contract.
I mean, they have the clout. They have the history. So, speaking of the Yankees, though, J.A. Happ, sounds like the Yankees are nearing an agreement with free agent lefty J.A. Happ. Of course, the Yankees had him last year, so it looks like he'll be staying in New York. What do you think about that?
Not surprised. They like to keep their guys there for a long time if they like them. He sounds like he has a good relationship with the Yankees, and he contributed to a long playoff run, so it makes sense.
Absolutely. The Yankees need to bolster their pitching as much as they can. Honestly, I think that's the biggest reason why I feel like they should avoid Harper and spend their money, spend their resources
on in-house guys?
Or, no, just going after pitchers. They have all the hitting they need, right? I mean, they didn't lose last year because they couldn't hit the ball. They lost because they couldn't pitch with Boston.
Yeah, and Boston,
they got the hitters, right? Like, the Yankees are incredibly gifted in hitting the baseball. It's the other parts.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird. I mean, I get it. Harper, the star power. Like, I get it. You know, like, it would be nice to see Harper in pinstripes. You know, that'd be fun. If you're a Yankees fan, it'd be good for the brand. But, man, if that team's serious about winning a championship, though, they got to go after some pitching, I believe.
Yeah,
we saw them do it with Paxton, though. They made that trade. So
they already paid up the wazoo for power hitters and hitting and batting, for instance, for Stanton. So and once Judge's contract is up, which is in the next couple of years, he's gonna get a lot of money himself. So
yeah, I could see them having a rotation of Paxton, Severino, Happ, Tanaka. But if they could add one more guy, I think that'd be fantastic. But going back to Bryce Harper, I don't know where he lands. Has your opinion changed?
Honestly, I have no clue where he's going to end up. It's anyone's guess at this point.
If you had to bet right now, where would you say?
You know, the Phillies probably.
Mm-hmm.
But honest, God, it's such a tough call.
I think it's going to be the Phillies. Yeah, I think so. I think the Phillies are just going to be the team at the end of the day that offers the most money. It would be sad, though, if they didn't get one of these two, because they've been kind of putting all their eggs in this basket, right, this free agency year.
Right.
What did you think about free agent pitcher Adam Ottavino saying that he would strike out Babe Ruth every single time if you faced him?
I understand what he's coming from, is in, like, it was a different era and the pitchers weren't throwing as hard or throwing as dirty. You know what I mean? No more filthy throws like that. I get what he was coming at from. I think that was a little too arrogant, saying someone that with that caliber of a player. I don't know. It just seemed like he was being a little too cocky for his own sake.
So he was on a podcast, and the 33-year-old said that Babe Ruth couldn't keep up in today's game. I had an argument with a coach in AAA about Babe Ruth's effectiveness in today's game, Ottavino said. I said, Babe Ruth, with that swinging that bat, I got him hitting 140 with 8 homers. He was like, are you nuts? Babe Ruth would hit 370 with 60 homers. And I'm like, I would strike Babe Ruth out every time. I'm not trying to disrespect him, rest in peace. Shout out to Babe Ruth.
Of course, he has to bring up that he's dead,
but it was a different game. I mean, the guy ate hot dogs and drank beer and did whatever he did. It was just a different game. Mm-hmm. He has a good point, but it's always silly when you compare players in different eras. I mean,
you can't. It's impossible.
I mean, we're talking about a guy that played like 100 years ago.
Legitimately. It's not even, you're not even joking. It's legitimately 100 years ago.
Everything about the game has changed pretty much, except for the fact that they play with 4 bases and the ball goes in play. But other than that, pitching was completely different. Hitting was different. The ballparks are different. Everything was different. Mm-hmm. So I see what he's saying, though. I know some people were like, what the heck? Who's this decent Major League pitcher? What is he talking about? But, I mean, yeah, if you inserted a pitcher in 2018 and dropped him into 1920, I'm sure he would be a very good pitcher, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure. But we don't have a time machine, so we don't know.
If we did, I think that would be low on the totem pole of things to do. Things to try, right?
We have a time machine. What do we do? Let's take this pitcher and put him in the 1920s.
Adam Ottavino of all pitchers, too.
Not like, I don't know, Roger Clemens or something. No. Let's put a guy that's kind of only here because he talked bad about a guy.
Yeah, pretty much. So people are just making too much about it. I'm ready for baseball to start again. The winter is just so boring when it comes to Major League Baseball, especially with free agency nowadays, with the players a lot of them not signing too quickly. They like to play out this process and take their time, and it makes it hard for us. I'll say that it makes it hard for us.
You mean us, podcast wise?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we want to see action. We want to see signings and trades, and
we need stuff to talk about, darn it.
I mean, come on. But anyways, maybe we should go to a quick break, come back. Got a few more things to talk about. We can wrap this up.
Yeah, hopefully we can come up with things, but we will be right back right after this, so don't go away.
Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
Welcome back to the GSMC Baseball Podcast. And did you see the new trailer for Avengers? The Endgame?
I have not, but everybody's losing their minds over it.
Well, it's just because it's the last Avengers movie, and the last one ended so cliffhangery. Did you see the last one at least?
I have not seen the last Avengers.
You didn't? Do you know the ending at least?
I mean, who can avoid it?
Yeah, true. It's like snap of your finger. Mm-hmm. Anything could happen. Get it?
Don't ruin the movie for everybody.
I never said.
Listening.
Okay, who seriously has not seen or heard about the ending of Avengers: Infinity War? Mm-hmm. Which a lot of people thought was just going to be called Infinity War Part 2, which I assumed also, but it's actually just called Endgame. Which I like the name of that.
Sounds like a Taylor Swift song.
Why do you ruin it?
What's wrong, T-Sizzle?
No, just never mind. Anyways, love you, Taylor Swift. But anyways,
Red Sox are going to bat Mookie Betts second in the order.
How dare they?
They're going to move Andrew Benintendi to lead off. Alex Cora announced that at the winter meetings. So Mookie Betts will go to number 2, the reigning AL MVP. He hit leadoff in every game he started this last year, 131. He's made 32 career starts batting second, most recently in 2017. What do you think about that?
Sure. I mean, he won the MVP. Why not just move him down the lineup?
Yeah, so basically the idea is to move Mookie Betts to number 2 so you can have more at-bats with the runners on base. It makes sense. When you lead off, you're going to have at least one at-bat a game with nobody on base. Well, now you might have the opportunity to go up to bat with somebody on base every single time if you make this move. So I think it makes sense. Mookie Betts is a really good hitter, really good player, and you always want to put your players in the best positions to succeed, your best hitters in positions to bring in more RBIs and boost the run total. So I see no problem with this.
Well, I'm just saying, like, he won the MVP at the one spot, did he not? I know, I just keep it That's just how I see it, anyways.
He did, but
That's how that
numbers would be better.
maybe. Well, we'll see. But I just think like if something's broke, don't fix it. You know?
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
He batted 346 with 80 RBIs. I mean, if he bats 346 again, he should have over 100 RBIs for sure. He could probably have 115, to be honest with you. Man, 346, what a year. Anyways. Yeah, I know what you're saying. If it's not broke, don't fix it. But what's the harm in batting somebody first or second? It's not like he's changing positions, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what is there a negative side to it?
No, not really.
So it looks like the Dodgers are exploring the trade market, looking to trade one of their outfielders. Yasiel Puig is a name that's been brought up a few times. What do you think about Yasiel Puig being traded by the Dodgers?
I don't see it happening.
Sounds like the Dodgers are actively attempting to trade Puig and Matt Kemp.
Matt Kemp I can see.
Why do you not see Puig being traded?
I don't know. Puig's just younger, and he's kind of like the part of the franchise, like face of the franchise type of thing. So,
But I mean, he's also kind of a pain, right?
mm-hmm.
Like he's hard to deal with sometimes. Sometimes not very professional, right?
Yeah, true. It's very true. He does get into trouble unnecessarily.
You know what's funny is that the San Francisco Giants, some people say that's the most sense, that he makes the most sense for the Giants. What do you say about that? What would a Giants fan say about Yasiel Puig and Madison Bumgarner on the same team?
They would get in fights.
Giants fans would get in fights, or Madison Bumgarner?
I don't know. I don't know. It just feels like this can.
If you were a Giants fan, would you want Yasiel Puig on the team?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how they would react to each other. I think I would have to talk to both of them about it first.
Do you think that the rivalry runs that deep? That they couldn't play on the same team to win a championship?
I think they really don't like each other, it feels like, though.
Sure. Because they're opposite personalities, right? Madison Bumgarner is more internal, and Yasiel Puig is more external in terms of how they reveal their emotions. Wouldn't you say?
True. This is true.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. Did you know that Yasiel Puig is the all-time leader in postseason appearances for the Dodgers? That is an incredible
all-time
stat.
leader?
All-time leader. 58 appearances in the postseason. That's a crazy stat.
That is because that sounds almost too good to be true.
He's only 28.
Wow, that's actually very impressive for
He's
a
only been
Dodgers
on the team for 5
for
years.
a Dodgers organization that's been in the playoffs hundreds of times. Basically, honestly, you could argue it's been hundreds.
I think that's the thing, because they're in the playoffs every year, so it makes sense. Because a lot of players have changed, right, for the Dodgers over the last 5 years, and he's been the one constant.
Yeah. He has been the constant.
And then a guy like Kershaw's only playing once every
yeah,
3 or
and
4.
he also is starting. I don't think he's missed a playoff game with them. Maybe one.
Yeah, even when he was going through his ups and downs, I mean,
he was still in the lineup,
and he didn't. Yeah, when it got to playoff time, he was back. Like, he was back in the lineup playing and things like that.
Yeah.
But 58 postseason appearances for the 28-year-old right fielder.
No, I think he's the face still of the franchise, him and Kershaw, so I don't think he's going anywhere.
It sounds like he's the most likely of all the outfielders to be traded. It makes sense, because they're not going to trade Bellinger. Mm-hmm. They're not going to trade probably Jock Peterson.
But they're going to be asking for a lot, and I don't think teams are going to risk giving up a lot for him.
They might not get too much back, though, because they're in a situation where they're not really in a position of dealing of power. Like, teams know that they need to, that they're looking to make a move, so they might not get a lot back just because they're not dealing from a position of power. But we'll see. Yasiel Puig, would you give up a lot for him?
Depend. How much is a lot?
We're talking about a 267 hitter who literally cannot stop himself from swinging at sliders. He just cannot. He never saw.
It's a slider. Ow.
He never saw a slider from a right-hander that he didn't swing at. I'm pretty sure.
The slider. The guy throws a slider. It's going at his face. He still swings.
I just remember those duels with Sergio Romo when he was on the Giants. So like slider, strike, slider, slider. Don't swing at the slider. Don't swing. At the
Sergio Romo had a field day with him. Let's be real.
Don't swing at the slider. Don't swing at the slider. Ah.
Yes, like CC Sabathia would love to pitch against him.
So, yeah, I think the Dodgers will be moving.
I would not give up. I always am worried about giving up my prospects because like that's your future. I always hate when people give up their number one prospects.
They're not. They wouldn't. No team's going to give up a top prospect for Puig. Nobody.
But that's probably what they're going to ask for. Is what I'm saying.
Well, they can ask for the moon, but they're not going to get that either. I mean, look, let's be real.
The Dodgers officially own the moon because Houston traded for Puig.
You realize that the Cardinals didn't even give up their top prospects for Goldschmidt? They're definitely not getting their top.
I think they probably asked for it, but they're like, okay, we got to settle for something because we got to move on from Schmidt. I think that's what the
whole
Diamondbacks
league knows
are
that they're
thinking.
trying to trade an outfielder, so they're going to get mediocre return. I mean, they're just looking to take a chance on some young players, but they're not going to get anybody's top prospects. I don't think. I'd be shocked if they can get top prospects. I mean, hats off to them. That would be incredible. But
yeah,
we don't know. We just don't know. Anyways, that's all I got.
That's all I got, too. Thank you. This is a little short of an episode, but thank you so much for joining us for the GSMC Baseball Podcast. Tune us in next week. Hopefully, we will have signings. We will have trades. We will have players. We would have new jerseys coming out. I don't know. We'll have something. We'll see you next week.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.